Dave, do you think 5th edition is as deadly as the earlier editions?
Well, there are some devastating monsters. I think lethality has dropped off some, Ted.
So how many different ways do you think player characters could get access to that stave off death?
We actually discussed that in a previous video, Ted.
Oh, it sounds like a great idea to do a character build guide on the unkillable character for 5th edition D&D.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Don't let those D&D videos die and fade away from your YouTube. Feed it by hitting that subscribe button instead.
And you can kill that boredom by filling your YouTube feed up with Nerdarchy videos by ringing that notification bell.
Before we jump into this video, it's only fair to point out our sponsor, D&D Beyond, which down below you can find the character sheet on D&D Beyond to this character that we're going to build, as well as the character build guide over on the DM's Guild, so you can see the step-by-step process we go through in making it. But that's not more. D&D Beyond offers so much more. It's an awesome database of digital tools for your D&D game.
D&D Beyond has been a sponsor with us for a long time. We absolutely love using it. It makes creating characters, campaigns, even playing the game so much easier.
All right, Ted, we're going to dive into this video. Let's start off with discussing kind of the premise for this character. I know in the intro we kind of said stave off death, but what exactly do we mean by that?
So, 5th edition has a lot of things that, knock you down and allow you to get back up again. So that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at, passing your saving throws or having the most amount of hit points. We're talking about, your character gets dropped and you're like, nah, I'm still on my feet. Nope, that didn't kill me. That didn't drop me. We're looking at those things.
So essentially, and most of them are worded like when you drop to 0, instead you're at 1 hit point instead. There are some other ways that you can kind of get around it, but that's primarily what we're looking at. So let's start with our build. What are our race options here?
Well, there's not a whole lot in race that allow you to shrug off effects. And it's pretty much your half-orc and your Goliath. And while the Goliath tends to have, the upper hand in the very early levels, it eventually, weighs much heavier. That the half-orc is the better option.
Yeah, the half-orc is just dropped to 0. Instead, you have 1 hit point. The Goliath just lets you reduce the damage by a certain amount, which, really, it can do what we want, but it's not exactly what we're looking for.
Right.
So we're definitely leaning towards half-orc there. Class options. There's a ton of classes that give us these kinds of features.
So yeah, it's absolutely there. Barbarian, Path of the Totem allows us to mitigate a lot of damage. And the Path of the Zealot, allows us to, be able to come back to dead, comes back to life when you die super easy. So those are technically falling into the you can't kill me scenario.
Well, also the Zealot has the ability to fight beyond death and things like that as well, which means if you were to receive healing before your rage ends, you technically wouldn't go down, you wouldn't die, and you're able to just keep going.
The Energizer Bunny.
Like the Energizer Bunny. Next up, we have the Cleric. And the reason we have Cleric on the list, and there might be some others that get access to it as well, but there's a 4th level spell that allows us to, basically get the same effect, plus things that would outright kill us. It shrugs off as well, and that is Death Ward. It lasts 8 hours. If you're a Cleric and you have access to 4th level spells, there's no reason to never not take this spell.
Yeah, Death Ward is fantastic. Next up is the Druid Circle of Wildfires.
Yeah, so when you have your wildfire buddy companion out, you can kind of just dismiss it and not go down instead.
Monk, Way of the Long Death. Once you reach 11th level, you can literally spend a key point to remain at 1 hit point when you were dropped to 0. So you could just keep tossing out those key points like candy.
Yeah, it is almost like the ultimate when it comes to that ability, but you can't get it until 11th level. So it makes it a little more difficult. Like Ted said. Next up, we have the Paladin, Oath of the Ancients. They also have a very high level ability that allows them to just do that. Reduced to 0? Nope. Once instead.
The Shadow Sorcerer does have a similar ability. They get to make a Charisma saving throw to prevent that, to prevent them from dropping. And then they get that ability right away.
Yeah, which is awesome. Their ability is kind of like being a zombie, though, so they can't use it if they get critted, and they cannot use it if they get hit by radiant damage. So, but that being said, they all, it comes up, and also they can use that once per long rest. If they fail that check and it doesn't work, then they still can use it. It doesn't actually count until they've failed the check. Next up, we have Warlock.
The Warlock Celestial, is a great one. It's 14th level. That when you die, you basically, or when you dropped, you can basically explode and come back to life. It's a really fun ability that most Warlocks are not getting access to.
Yeah, and finally we have Wizard, Order of the Scribe. So it's not actually a resist death feat, but they have an ability where they can sack out a bunch of spells from their spell books and lose access to them for, a certain amount of time. And they just negate any damage they would have taken. So obviously anything that would have dropped you as a reaction, negating that would totally fit to what we're trying to do here.
So that's a lot of abilities, and clearly there's no way to get them all into one character. So we've put together a character that gets to do it all themselves. There's definitely ways to have some other people help you, and that could change your build. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the self-sufficient, unkillable guy or person.
We're going to take this build from level 1 to level 20. And right from the beginning, we're going to focus on trying to get access to ways for us to not go down, to not die. And I think we do a really good job with it. Early on, we really start off cranking this and getting it to do what it's meant to do. But before we get into that, we're going to go with our background choice, which actually for this build, it actually does not matter. Anything kind of works for this build, but we're going to pick something anyway.
So for this one, we're taking Acolyte. This is going to give us, several different things, but it's the most important is it is our, role-playing reason for us to eventually get to our first level in Cleric. But Acolyte, it's going to get us stuff.
All right, so first thing we're going to choose now is we need to take our ability stats and lay them out before we start delving into our race and our class.
All right, so this is a little tough, a little bit, needing to be worked. So we went with the 27 point buy, and we will say that, with Tasha's release, we aren't doing the, stat substitutions. We're taking, what comes with the race package or the origin package, and we are going with half work. So that's going to net us a +2 to strength and a +1 to con for our build. So we went with an 8 strength, a 14 dexterity, and an 11 constitution.
Then for our mentals, we went 11 in our intelligence, 14 in our wisdom, and 14 in our charisma. Ted already kind of said what we're doing for our race, half work, which is going to give us some stat adjustments, and that relentless endurance, which is going to allow us to get back up. So we don't have a class yet, but already we at least once a day, once a long rest, we can defy death.
So then, as we said, we went with Acolyte for our background. So next we're going to take our first class, and for that we're going to take Sorcerer, which is going to give us access to our origin right away, which we are going to take Shadow. So as a first level character, we have already got 2 different ways that we can stave off death, or stave off, those things that drop us to 0. So it's already, looking like a good day.
Yeah, so now it's going to be, now we're going to have to wait a while before we can do it again. But we're going to bum rush Cleric for 7 levels, taking us all the way up to an 8th level character. On the way, we're going to gain our first ASI. We're going to put a +2 in Wisdom. That's going to increase the number of spells we can know. And, make our DCs higher when we cast spells as a cleric. Since right now we have the most levels of it, it kind of made some sense to do that. But the most important thing that we're going to get are 2 things, really. Sentinel at Death's Door As a reaction, we can now stop a crit. It's also another ability that's based off our wisdom. Well, why is this important? Well, one of the things that can keep us from using our sorcerer ability is getting critted. So one, we don't want to take the extra damage. And two, we want to be able to get back up or have the chance to get back up. So that's definitely something that's going to be important to us. And then once we get all the way to 7th level, we then gain access to 4th level spells. We can now take Death Ward and, we can cast it once a day. As a 7th level cleric, the more spell castings you get, the more times you could cast it. For this build, that would not normally matter, but we already have 1 level of sorcerer. That means we're technically an 8th level spellcaster, and we will actually get access to 2 4th level spell slots. So we can actually cast it twice. So now we can stave off death 4 times as an 8th level character. That's not too bad.
Not too shabby. Now, I will also throw out there that, this is a defensive character build. So as you were leveling throughout those levels of Cleric, taking spells that are going to give you defensive options or temporary hit points definitely fits the theme and the flavor of this particular build. So Shield of Faith, Aid, these are going to be your friends. And of course, being able to mitigate damage, through, healing spells. That's right up the Cleric's, alley. So it kind of goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway.
So now we are going to go straight all the way to level 20 with 1 class. This is going to be like one of the shortest character build guides we've done yet. Because we want that 11 levels of monk, and we might as well take 12 so we can get another ASI. And we really want to rack up those key points. So, this takes us from being able to do, get back up 4 times to we're going to get back up 16 times. You have to kill us 16 times for us to stay dead. And we have a number of ways that we can avoid like other effects too, because that death ward is super strong.
So that is quite a lot. Over the course of this build, we obviously are taking, Way of the Long Death for Monk to get that super sweet ability. We do have to wait to get to 19th level to get there. But once you do, man, that is just like, as I said, you've got, key points like the candy of like, nope, I'm not dead. Nope, I'm not dead.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to get a couple ASIs along the way. The way we've did it, we've increased our con, we've increased our wisdom, and then we increased our wisdom again. Obviously, these are late game. You could play with the configuration. It doesn't really matter that much. It's just that we figured, what are we trying to do with this build? We're trying to not get dropped, right? So while Monk gives us the most opportunities to not get dropped, to get there faster, we took those other classes to do it.
So, alternative options, go all Monk and then begin collecting those other abilities.
Or I will say you could just go all Monk and do it 20 times as well as be a half orc, but that would be boring.
That's not as fun and flavorful.
And it's not going to help you when they disintegrate your ass either.
That is true. But it's one of those things. It's a cool build. As Dave says, we've got the build guide and the character sheet. But how would we use this character as an NPC?
That's a good question. All right. There's a rumor about this guy in town that's a zombie because he just won't die. And like he keeps going down and getting back up. Is he a villain? Is he a hero? I don't know. Is he just a kooky NPC that is virtually unkillable?
So we've used this particular idea a lot. But imagine if this is the dude that you have to fight in an arena, and you just keep delivering these fatal shots, and he just is like, I got this, man. I got this, man. And he just sits there and takes it and just keeps dishing out the pain. I mean, we're talking about, a high level character that, they could hit pretty hard and do quite a lot with all those other abilities and things that they got going on. So he's not seriously, dealing out mega damage like some other characters, but I did 37 points of damage. Nah, it's just 1. I'm still at 1.
Yeah,
One key
you know,
point.
he's literally dead on his feet in the ring, and he just won't go down because you keep having to unload until they have no more hit points. The arena style fighter would be kind of fun and kooky to kind of do. You know, kooky NPC. Maybe not so much a big bad, unless you're literally making a zombie style character where it's you know, special circumstances to bring them down, or they have a chance to not go down. Also, this is one that I would say you want to use kind of sparingly because it'd be annoying.
Yes. You know, I would say that this would be a fantastic character to use as a like a foil throughout the game, so that like you always think you killed him, and like, you know, oh, let's give him some deception, you know, skill, and he takes the shot and goes down. You think you've killed him, and you leave him there for dead. You know, because how many times do characters really like, oh, I deliver a coup de grace, you know, they go down, and people tend to just, you know, loot the body and walk away. But with this dude being a monk, doesn't need weapons, doesn't need armor, you know, so he is constantly, you know, a thorn on their side, and they just keep killing him, and he just refuses to die. And mechanically, he's got the abilities that, you know, like that give him that ability to just be like, no, I'm not dead.
And finally, the other way is just introduce a monastery of Way of the Long Death into the campaign. And obviously, most of the monks there will not have this ability because it is higher level, but some of the masters might. And, you know, and maybe the players get cocky with them and they have to be put in their place or whatever. Or, you know, or it's something that gets witnessed on the battlefield when you're fighting alongside them as allies. So it might be interesting that way as well and lead to some discussions and role playing afterwards. So, hey, if you enjoyed this video and you like the guide, you can see the video that inspired it all, the Unkillable D&D 5e character builds.
If you like this video and you'd like to see more things that Nerdarchy creates, why not check us out on Patreon, where we make 5e products every month for players and DMs alike.
But that's not all. Our patrons get access to monthly fan games and monthly giveaways and so much more.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.